How'd that first episode go? I forgot to show a picture of the commander on the screen. Ooh, that's definitely pretty rough. But how about this? You get started on your next project here. I'll cover this one for you in the meantime. Thanks, man. Thank Heliod for the interns. Hello, friendos. This is Chain welcoming you back to Chain of Commander. Back on my Black Friday episode, I went over a handful of mechanics that can help give you a discount when it comes to casting your spells. Well, for today, I figured we could delve into one of those mechanics in particular. Now, Delve and we go back a long way. Delve was part of the Khans of Tarkir block, which was the first block release after I started playing Magic. So Delve was one of the first mechanics I ever had to learn. Prior to Khans of Tarkir, there were only 3 Delve spells, and they were all released in Future Sight. The Khans of Tarkir block brought in 19 more, bringing us to 22. And since then, we've had 2 more in Modern Horizons, and 1 more in a recent Commander product. Now, in other constructed formats, Delve ended up being a bit problematic. Its 2 flagship cards, Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise, got banned or restricted in every Eternal format. Hogak, Risen Necropolis, a card designed for Modern, released in Modern Horizons, was banned in Modern within a year of its release. It's almost like cheating on mana costs is pretty darn powerful. But yet, in Commander, we don't see any of these cards that often. We do see the occasional Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time, and some people have built Hogak decks, but overall, out of the 25 Delve cards, the fact that we barely see 1, 2, or 3 of them is, to me, it feels like we are undervaluing this mechanic in EDH. Now, not every deck can play the Delve mechanic. In fact, there's certain types of decks that can get the most advantage out of it. And when I'm thinking decks, I'm thinking of decks that can fill their graveyard. Things like Muldrotha, Sidisi Brood Tyrant, Arumi. All these decks are designed to fill their graveyard so they have plenty of resources available to delve with. But other things that would like it. Sir Conrad would love to see creatures leaving the graveyard to pay for the delve mechanic to start pinging people. Yuriko and Atemsis, these are cards that would like to see big mana spells in zones other than the stack that can be cast for less, so they would fit in there as well. That said, I definitely want to get into a list of 5 Delve cards that I feel all of you are underutilizing in your EDH deck building. And we will start with a personal favorite of mine. The first card I want to hone in on here is Murderous Cut. Murderous Cut is 4 and a black for an instant with Delve, destroy target creature. I have talked about this card so many times for so many different reasons on this channel, and I will continue to talk about this card because this card is so good. Having access to what is essentially a single black removal spell is absolutely fantastic. White has Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares, and those cards are played so much, pretty much everywhere. If you see a white deck, you see those cards in it. But Murderous Cut, barely in 4,000 decks according to EDH Rec, and it's essentially the black Path to Exile. For a single black, you can destroy a creature. And that's just really good. And sometimes it might cost a little bit more than that, but if you compare it to something like Murder, which will always cost you 3, and then you have this, which might cost you 3 maybe once out of the 20 times you cast it, it begins looking really, really good, especially later in the game where you can just pay 1 black mana. Super mana efficient. I could keep talking about this thing for ages, but I'll just let you know, you guys are undervaluing this card. Try it out. You'll like it. Trust me. The second card we're going to look at here is Empty the Pits. Empty the Pits is XX, black, 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 for an instant with Delve, obviously. Create X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens tapped. Like I said earlier, Sir Conrad loves to see things leaving its graveyard. So a spell like this, where you can dump your entire graveyard and all your mana into at your previous opponent's end step, is one bonkers finisher if I have ever seen one. It's late game. You have a stocked graveyard. You have probably a bunch of mana. You might even have the Cabal Coffers out, just produce infinite black mana, and you just dump your entire graveyard and mana into this to create 20, 30 plus power worth of zombies at your previous opponent's end step, pinging them in the process as all these creatures are leaving your graveyard. Now, it is mana intensive. I'll concede to that. Double X and 4 black pips is a lot, so you're likely only going to be seeing this in mono black decks, or if you are splashing, decks that have access to Urborg. If you are going to splash, though, I'd recommend probably green as a good color to splash with, because then you get access to things like Doubling Season and Parallel Lives to double up on the amount of tokens you're making, or Unbound Flourishing to just copy the spell completely because it has an X cost in it. But it can also pair okay with white, because then you get Anointed Procession as well. This one definitely takes a bit of finagling to really get that super powerful punch, but even by itself, it's just a fun card to cast. And if you haven't cast it yet, if you have a mono black deck, try this card out in it. See how it goes. You'll be surprised with exactly how much fun you'll have and how much you'll like playing it. Speaking about liking things, how have you been liking the list so far? Why don't you just click that button? Thanks, bro. For the third card we look at today, I want to take a look at Logic Knot. Logic Knot is X blue blue for an instant with Delve. Counter target spell unless its controller pays X. Logic Knot is one of the 3 original Delve cards to come out of Future Sight, and it is a personal pet card of mine. If you remember Clash of Wills, which is just counter target spell unless its controller pays X, but give it an extra blue pip, but also give it Delve, suddenly you are no longer bound to just the amount of mana you have available. You are now bound by how much mana you have available and how big your graveyard is. It's much easier to leave 2 blue up with a massive graveyard than decide to not use your mana for a turn to just hold back and potentially counter something. So, far and away better than Clash of Wills. But then you might say, blue is in the mana cost. Does it make it better than Counterspell? Of course not. That is just absolutely silly to even say. I would assert there's some very few niche situations where Logic Knot might be better than Counterspell, but it's not a replacement. If anything, it's an additional copy because late in the game, it's going to counter pretty much everything just by delving a couple of cards away. So a functional double of Counterspell for your deck. If you're a heavy control deck, if you're playing a deck that cares about countering things like Brawl, definitely Logic Knot. Whew, you'll love it. It's a way of life. Strolling up at number 4, we have Temporal Trespass. Temporal Trespass is 8 blue for a sorcery with Delve. Take an extra turn after this one, exile Temporal Trespass. The first extra turn card ever printed, Time Walk, part of the Power 9, gave you an extra turn for 2 mana. No extra turn spell since then has even come close. They're always printed at 5 or 6 or 7 CMCs. Temporal Trespass is a whopping 11 CMC, yes, but because of that delve, you could be casting this for as little as blue. 3 mana to get an extra turn is insanely ahead of its rate. Now, I did some digging here. Temporal Trespass is the most popular of the 5 cards we're looking at today, coming in at just under 6,700 decks on EDH Rec. But even at that point, I feel like this is one of the better and one of the most underappreciated extra turn spells in EDH because it can quite frequently be cast for that low price of 3 mana, which in the late game means that you can still do other things with your turn. Temporal Trespass. Not getting the respect it deserves, in my opinion. I'd like to see more of it out there. Other things I would like to see. I would like to see all you people who are not subscribed yet hitting that subscribe button. It turns out most of the people who watch my videos aren't even subscribed. I have no idea why they're not. You might as well subscribe. You watch the videos anyways. Hit the subscribe button. Thanks. To wrap up our list here today, I figure we could take a look at Rite of Undoing. Rite of Undoing is 4 and a blue for an instant with Delve. Return target non-land permanent you control and target non-land permanent you don't control to their owner's hands. We are going from the most played card on our little list here with Temporal Trespass to by far and away the least placed card on our list in Rite of Undoing. Not even coming in at 100 decks on EDH Rec. This thing could definitely be classified under the spicy little meatball category because you almost never see this anywhere. That said, I want you to take a look at this card and you'll quickly realize this is removal. This is protection. This is both at the same time. If your opponent's trying to remove something of yours, you can bounce it to your hand and bounce something of theirs to your hand. If your opponent's trying to swing at you with something, you can bounce that to their hand and bounce something small back in your hand. Maybe you got something with an ETB trigger. You can bounce that to your hand and take advantage of it later. This card is incredibly versatile, and versatility is one of the best pieces of tech any card can have in EDH. That's why modular spells are good, because they are versatile. This is essentially a modular spell that can be used in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different scenarios. And because of that, I think this card is great. But yet, people don't want to put it in decks for some reason. I don't know. Am I seeing something they're not? Are they seeing something I'm not? Who's to say? What I do say, though, is try out this card. This card is super cool, super versatile, and it will come in clutch in a lot more situations that you might give it credit for. So, that is our list today. Now I want to hear from you folks. Let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite Delve spell? Do you like taking that extra turn with Temporal Trespass, or do you just simply like drawing 3 cards with Treasure Cruise? It's all good. Let me know in the comments below. Also let me know if there's any cool ways that you've used a Delve card before that might not just be so obvious on the surface. Definitely let us know as well. I'd love to hear it. Also, huge shout out to my Patreons. I love you folks so much. If you want to be part of the Changuins, definitely consider following the link in the comments below to our Patreon page. Patrons get access to choosing the direction of the channel, nominating commanders to make deck techs out of, and a variety of other things. Check it out. There'll probably be a tier for you, and I'd love to have you join us. Other than that, thank you all so much for joining me today anyways. This was an excellent topic, and I loved talking about it, and I'm excited to see what we got coming up in the future. Take care.